let's watch this video here from a famous television show.
Are you going?
Well, as a matter of fact, I'm on a 10-year exchange waiting list. And what about you, Patty?
I'm on the list too. Now the trouble is, their quotas fill just as soon as they make the announcement of a new trip. While I'm waiting, I think I'll do the next best thing. I'm still working on that book. You know, deciphering that title has been of no help because the capital letters are different than the other signs they use, just as ours are. But it's starting to fall into place now. I think I'll get the answer eventually.
The more power I gave a triumph months ago.
This is flight number 914 from Earth to our planet. We will be taking off in 3 minutes.
Mr. Chambers! Mr. Chambers! Don't get on that ship! Rest of the book! To serve men! It's a cookbook!
You have not eaten enough, Mr. Chambers. Please, enjoy. Eat hearty.
Please, Mr. Chambers, eat. We wouldn't want you to lose weight. How about you? You're still on Earth on the ship with me. But it doesn't make very much difference because sooner or later, will all of us be on the menu? All of us.
The recollections of one Michael Chambers with appropriate flashbacks and soliloquy. Or more simply stated, the evolution of man. The cycle of going from dust to dessert. The metamorphosis from being a ruler of a planet to an ingredient in someone's soup. It's tonight's bill of fare from the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, you know, Kubrick watches that stuff at home all the time. Okay, well now, To Serve Man was the name of that episode too. It was, just wanted to make sure you're paying attention, and hopefully that last video was wrong. Question, and this is just group discussion, and then we'll bring the evening to a close here with, we're going to have some really great auction items. It's no autograph event, but we got some autograph material, which is going to be great and help the museum. But you can all comment on this, whatever comes to mind. You're NASA, you're Elon Musk, you're Jeff Bezos, or Richard Branson, or any of the other commercial space challengers. What do we do now? Where do we go? And why? What's going to excite our next greatest generations? Jerry, why don't you lead off with that? There's a lot going on, but...
Well, if I was king for a day, I think the first thing I'd do is recognize that space exploration is important. And it's not going to pay off tomorrow, the next day it's going to pay off for the long-range future, because a little bit like that clip, one day we're going to use up this planet and we're going to have to go somewhere else. Many years downstream, but we've got to learn what's out there. I thought Al's comment about the universe is very grabbing, and we just live a tiny piece here. But the first thing I'd do then is I'd select a destination. We've had a program now that beyond low Earth orbit that has been pretty much described as build a rocket and we'll figure out where to take it. And I don't think that's going to work. I think we've got to have a firm plan to go somewhere. It's what got us through Apollo. We need a timetable to do it, and we need then the backing of the White House and the Congress and the public, just like we had in the old days. Now, I do think the commercial people have come on stronger than I thought they would, and I think in the not too distant future, they could be the low Earth orbit providers of services and launch services and so forth. But biggest thing I do in a nice, crisp, short answer, select a destination. We've got to get somewhere to go.
Hello. Why, thank you, Walt. The next question is for Walt. The password is potassium. Again, the same question. Let's go kind of more lightning round here as we wrap up here. As you think about that, what's it going to take to excite our next generations?
I'm not sure that we're going to be able to excite a whole generation anymore. I find that as our culture and society has turned into being risk-averse, we're not oriented towards what I'd like to see, like Jerry just described. We need to have a destination. It needs to be beyond reach. For example, Mars, I think we do a wonderful job of unmanned exploration out there now, but I also think that for humanity to has to have ideas like this. I think we should go stop on the moon and develop the technique and the capability to do it. There's a lot of other crazier ideas out there now that I don't think have a Chinaman's chance, but I really don't know how much the public is willing to sign on to any of these things anymore.
All right, Charlie?
I agree with Jerry. I think we need to set a destination, whether it's a lunar station or a trip to Mars. It seems to me one of those two is the right destination to shoot for. I'm a little bit more optimistic, I guess, and I had a chance to speak a couple of months ago to the Texas Science and Engineering Fair. These were all high school kids. There were 3,000 of them in the finals of this contest, and they all had various projects that they worked on out of school on their own, and I toured maybe 50 of them, and of those 50, 19 of them had patents on their projects. One guy that won the national title last year was now a freshman at the University of Texas in petroleum engineering, and he'd had a patent, and he was talking to venture capital companies about his invention. And so there's some positive things going on, and a lot of us were just out in, one final comment, a lot of us were out in Tucson just recently to the Space Fest, and I can't tell you how many people from the UK and Australia were there and really interested in space.
They were excited.
And everywhere I go, I see a lot of young people really interested in space, and hopefully we can continue to motivate them, set a program, set a goal like we had in Apollo, and press on.
That's right. Well said. Here's your microphone.
They probably won't like me saying this, but the thing that's absent from this discussion in a lot of cases is that we need to hear what is your one big idea for making spaceflight more affordable. The only one on the table today is the one that comes from the commercial people. When I ask NASA that, they sort of say it's a good question. And then they talk about destinations and other things. But they need to figure out how they're going to make this affordable. Other than that, you're just whistling in the dark. And I'd like to see somebody pay some real serious attention to that question.
Mr. Warden? BUL.
That me? I have to go back to what Jerry said, all this stuff that we're talking about. Pete, maybe a little broader brush. I have this idea, this philosophy, that everything that's alive here on Earth does everything it can for its species to survive. And I don't care if it's grass or trees or fruit or animals or people. The prime imperative of everything alive, organically alive on Earth, is for their species to survive. I don't think people are any different from that. And that makes me think that there's something in the space program that's genetically driving us to go into space, because we know that the day will come when we can't live here anymore. It may come a lot sooner than people think because of the way people are treating each other. But in the long run, it's going to go anyway, because in a few billion years, the sun's going to run out of its energy anyway. And we're not going to be able to live here. There won't be a place for us to live. We're going to have to go somewhere else. I happen to think that's kind of a genetic thing that we all have, and that's why we have a space program. And I think in addition to that, we are probably too impatient. We may not develop a propulsion drive that'll get us where we want to go for another 1,000 years, but we got to be patient and wait for that to happen. And you know, a trip of 1,000 years starts with one step, but we made that step going to the moon. I think that the time will come when we're going to be able to conquer the propulsion systems we need to go to places where we can survive when we can't live here anymore.
All right.
I was afraid you were going to get to me, because it's probably just as well, because lightning is probably going to hit this building. But I'm not all that keen on spending all this money and effort on the manned space program. We need to do some of that, but somebody said up here earlier that we're pretty good about sending out unmanned probes and doing things and understanding the universe. I think we got to figure out what there is out there that can be used first before we go trying to get it. And it strikes me, I don't exactly know how to say this, but the Earth is kind of self-limited. We live in a natural cycle, and take rabbits if you like. The weather's good, there gets to be 1 million rabbits. The coyotes say, man, that's good, and then there gets to be lots of coyotes, then there's not very many rabbits. So that's kind of the natural cycle I see, and I think that we need to use and figure out how we can deal with the Earth we live on without worrying so much about Mars and asteroids and stuff like that. I know that's probably not popular in this group.
I'm just glad I'm sitting at this end of the couch.
But you're going to what? What'd you say?
I'm just glad I'm on this end of the couch, in case anything.
I don't blame you. But anyway, I think that we need to exercise more of our resources in trying to understand, because we're getting a lot of smoke and mirrors here about some things, and we need to get more real science into it about our Earth, the Earth we live on. I'm not going to be around probably to see all this.
Buzz will be. He'll be here in 1,000 years. He told me before the show tonight. Buzz, you get the bad cleanup here. Your thoughts? What's going to excite our next greatest generations about space?
Well, I think that Kennedy had 3 things. He had a destination, he thought he had a plan. Turned out the person who was supposed to have the plan, I guess, or thought he had the plan, didn't have the plan. And so I think in my life and my experiences, the most significant thing is to have a plan, and obviously it's going somewhere, but it has to deal with a lot of stuff all around. And as you have your destination, it's a lot more than just going there and coming back, or going there and wait till somebody else comes so you can come back, and there's always somebody there. The first is a visit, the second is an occupy, and the third is you go and you don't go back. And throughout history, we've had humans who have gone somewhere and didn't come back. And if there's going to be a catastrophe of some sort that Stephen Hawking referred to, he said we have 200 years to find another destination for the human race. I think the plan, to me, is the most challenging because you can begin to see what the opposition is to the plan. And number one is you got to get started. And we're not very good at doing that right now. We're going backwards. So we need an impetus. And that impetus, I think, will be built up by continually pointing out to the people who were the participants, and we're some of them, of the things that did inspire the world, and do these over and over enough like we're doing now so that the people get the spirit. And I think those times are in a pretty nice schedule. They're kind of 50th anniversaries approaching, 50th anniversary of carrying out Apollo. And if everybody believes that that's a time to at least have a destination, you may not have a complete plan until later. The impact of what humans going permanently to another planet, I just don't think is sinking in at all to so many people, just what that means in history, what that will mean hundreds, thousands of years, when there is a flourishing colony settlement, not on the moon. It can go there and come back and real easy. I'm not sure that I see why we need thousands and thousands of people there. But I do see that at Mars, and we need a plan. And it has to be an exciting plan. It has to be a continuous plan.
That's right.
And I can't wait to tell you all about my plan.
Because this plan, there was one site, and I don't think the plan is to send a Kardashian up there, but maybe there's an angle there. let's thank America's Space Program heroes right here tonight with us.
Good evening,